Hello guys.
Hey everyone. Alright, so we're going to be doing our paint pouring class today.
Yep.
Now, we were going to do this earlier, but we ended up having a pretty big paint spill. So, parents and guardians, just keep in mind you might want to set up like a pseudo Dexter kill lab here.
Or like something under the carpet or wood floor that you are using.
Yes.
Like something to cover like a table or flat surface.
Yep. Old sheets. Another good way is if you take a trash bag and you split it down the sides and open it up, and then after the paint dries on top of it, you can reuse it again for new projects afterwards. So we're going to do two different styles of pour, two different techniques today. One is going to be the flip cup that everyone seems to love. Channing's going to do that one. And then I'm going to do the swipe method, which doesn't really require any extra chemicals because we know some people can't really get their hands on them right now with the quarantine. So we're going to do two different ways. Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and we'll start with Channing's. We already pre-mixed most of our paints except for one, and we're going to show you how to do that if you have all of the additives. So you're going to pour your paint into a cup.
Like this.
And then we have our Floetrol. The ratio for paint and Floetrol is going to be 1:1. So that means as much paint as you have is how much Floetrol you want to put in there.
So around.
It's like a big clump went in there. So I have to fish it out. Alright.
And if you have clumps in your Floetrol, make sure to get it out.
Yeah. They'll usually stick to your whatever you're using as your mixture device, and you can just scoop it out easy if you have clumps in your paint or your Floetrol. So when you're mixing, you want to make sure you're scraping the sides of your cup and scraping the bottom, getting everything mixed up really well, because the main thing you want to do here with paint pours, the most important part is getting the right consistency for your paint so that it not only mixes with your other cups of paint well, but also so it dries evenly.
To check, you can mix it and then take it up like as if you're scooping the side, but go up and then make it straight and see if there's a straight line, and that means it's good.
Yes. So she's saying that's how you check your consistency. You're going to scoop up a little paint on your stick here, and if it pours off in a straight line, you have your mix.
Looks like this
correct.
is good.
That one might need to be worked with. Yeah, see that one's good. It's running right off the tip. So that means she doesn't need to add water. But if yours is still so thick and clumpy after you do the Floetrol, you want to go ahead and add just a little bit of water at a time. Just a couple drops at a time. Alright, so we have our silicone, and we're just going to use this in Chan's paint pour. You only need like 1 or 2 drops in each cup of paint. And which, by the way, Channing is just using craft paint. She has black, this dark foresty green, a blue, and then we have a cup of white. So in addition to the colors that you choose that you want to be in your pour, you're going to need an additional color. So usually like white or black is used. This is going to be used to make sure that your whole canvas, your whole piece of wood, whatever you use, is covered in paint.
Yep.
Alright, so a little bit more than the rest of the colors with that cup. So we're going to put just a drop or 2 in each of your colors, not your white or black. Let's go ahead. 1 or 2 drops in each. Oh, here we go. It comes out fast sometimes. Alright, so we've got our silicone, and then you're just going to give each cup a quick swirl to kind of mix it in a little bit. So go ahead and swirl each of your cups one more time.
Okay.
Now we also, I prop everything up when I'm doing paint pours because the paint is going to pour off the sides, and if it's laying on a flat surface, it's going to stick to whatever it's setting on while it's drying. So if you want to prop up a canvas, make sure that cups, whatever you're using, you can really use anything to make sure that it's elevated off of your tabletop, is supporting the frame of the canvas, not the actual canvas in here, or it's gonna make cup imprints or whatever you're using, and it's gonna look funky after. Alright, so we've got our silicone mixed up. So we are on to the fun part. Go ahead and pause right now while you mix up the rest of your paints. Like I said, we already pre-mixed ours. So go ahead and pause, mix your paint ups, get them prepared. Paint ups? Mix your paints up. Get them prepared, and then go ahead and push play when all of those paints are running in a straight line off of your popsicle sticks.
And one more thing, again, straight line, scoop, straight.
Alright? Okay, we'll see you in a few minutes. Alright. Okay. So now we're ready to do our flip cup pour. Our paints are ready. So what you're going to do is you're going to pour your colored paints into an additional cup, an empty cup. Ours is just dirty with paint. You can pour them in any order that you want. It really does not make a huge difference. That's just something that you'll have to play with in doing multiple paint pours. But with paint pours, you can't really control the paint as much as you can doing other things.
This comes out mystery.
Yep, it's a mystery. It's a surprise every time. All right, so let's go ahead and fill this cup up.
All of them in.
Now see what Channing's doing all of this cup at once. You don't have to do that. You can do a little bit of each cup back and forth at a time.
I like doing all of them.
And that's perfectly fine. There's no wrong way to pour this into a cup.
And if you are doing it the way I am doing it, take a spoon, anything to scrape the rest out. I think I should hold it with my other hand.
We always make sure we get as much as we can out of the cup so we're not being wasteful.
Okay.
All right, now what color are we doing next?
Let's do green.
Okay.
Shit out.
Here we go.
There.
All right, now blue.
Yep.
You gonna stick that in there?
I'm gonna look very happy.
Now, one thing to remember is a lot of paint is going to, bless you,
Thank you.
is going to end up on your table or your work surface.
We should have told
Well, we did.
Well,
That's why you need to make sure you use a tablecloth or something. Wait till it's warm outside, and the kids can do it outside if you don't mind paint being in your yard. But it is something you really want to prepare for. Also, sometimes when we do this, we will use latex or rubber gloves. We're not gonna. You can put a little bit of white in, but that's not our mixing colors. We can pull it up.
I just really
Sometimes we use gloves, but right now we're not using those, and we can't find them anyway because we're leaving those to the doctors and nurses, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need them, not us. So
And-
now's a good time to take off jewelry if you don't want it to get dirty.
Well, a lot of people don't even know how to use those gloves because a lot of people touch other things with the gloves and then touch their face. So that's why you should leave it to nurses and doctors.
Yes. All right, you got all the weight you want in there?
What if I want to do a couple more times? Like, that's good.
Okay.
I just want to do a little lighter.
All right, now we're going to put the cup upside down on the canvas.
Ready?
Do you want to do it?
You can put it down like that on the cups.
Well, we're not going to do the splashing way right now. I'll show them this way. This is the cleanest way to do it because we want to keep our houses clean. So you're going to hold, you want to do it? Okay. So you're going to hold the canvas in one hand.
Do you want
Do you know what I'm doing?
it? Yeah.
Okay, do you want me to do it?
Oh, I'll just do it.
Okay, so we're going to put the canvas on top and then flip them both over at the same time so we don't make a huge mess.
Alright.
Okay, so flip the canvas on top.
I know.
Got it?
3,
There you go.
2, 1.
Yeah, okay. So now we have the cup sitting there. So let go. All right. So now we've got it sitting there. I usually let it sit for a minute so that the paint inside the cup has time to all drip down. And this is a good time to get your canvas prepped with your extra paint. So our extra paint is going to help our paint pour move across the canvas. Since this canvas is dry, if we were to flip the cup right now and try to get it to move around, it's not going to move that freely. It needs some additional paint to help it push across the canvas. So I like to put it all around the edges and the corners. So if you want to go ahead and do that.
Pour it?
Yeah, you can pour it. I usually pour it, but if you don't want to cause a huge mess, you can also like take a spoon and spoon it out, or even with your even with your popsicle stick to move it around. It's also easy to just move your hands, use your hands if you're allowed to. If this one gets really messy, there's really absolutely no way around it. It's gonna be a complete mess. All right. So we need some more. How about don't do it completely on the edges because it's just dripping right off.
Great.
Yep. And this uses a lot of paint, so.
Yep. So if you're trying to do something like with your house, I would suggest you probably do her idea.
All right. So got it coated pretty well. You want to make sure at least on the outside and the corners you don't see much of the canvas. All right. Make sure you have a lot of baby wipes, towels, or even a sink nearby.
Things that you can like get messy, like something to soak it up.
Dexter Kill Room. That's what we were talking about.
I don't
All right.
even know what that is. Okay.
So yeah. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and flip the cup now. You can flip it any way you want to. Some people like drag it around. Some people shake it a little bit to get the paint all mixed up.
Ready?
I usually just pull it off and see what happens.
3.
Ready, go.
It looks like earth. Sprinkle it.
Does look like earth.
Sprinkles.
All right,
Like a
let's set
mess.
that to the side. Now, if you do have a torch or a heat gun, some kind of heat source, now is the time where you can start getting some of those cells to pop up. You don't want to put it directly on the paint. You're going to burn the paint or burn the canvas. But a couple inches away, you'll see bubbles starting to pop. That's getting all of that air from underneath the paint to come up towards the top.
And what she's doing, you're going to want to move it around a little bit so it's not directly in one spot because, like she said, the paint will catch on fire or the canvas.
Exactly. All right. So now is another fun part. You get to move the paint around. It's a very important part because to get your paint pour to dry, your paint is going to have to be thin on the canvas. So that's why I keep saying we're going to lose a lot of paint. Most of this paint is coming off and onto the table. All right, so let's move this out of the way. You want to stand up so you can move your canvas around?
Yes, yeah. Short.
All right.
Very short.
All right, you ready?
Hands.
Yep. So you're just going to grab the sides of the canvas, doesn't matter which sides, and you're going to kind of start moving it around in a circle to get your paint moving around.
Not so that it falls off, though. You don't want that to happen.
Well, we are going to make it fall off in a minute.
Well, I meant like.
You want to do it slower to actually get the paint moving around. All right. Yeah.
Whoa. Got it.
Also, the slower the better too, because it won't pull the paint in one direction so far. So slowly around in a circle. It's looking awesome. Oh yeah.
It feels so nice on my hands.
Like I said, we'll let most of it fall off.
There.
And now when the paint's thinning out, when you're stretching it out, that's really when you're going to see all of the cells start to pop up.
Like that.
Yeah.
So.
see if I can bring it closer to the camera so they can
It's drippy, very good.
see the cells. See how the cells are popping up now? It looks awesome.
Gray.
All right, and we're gonna set it back down on our little post here. No, this time what I usually do, it's not necessarily, it's completely aesthetic if you like it or not, but any of the canvas that is not covered around the edges, I just go around and pick up the extra paint and make sure it's all covered. It looks like you did a pretty good job of that. All right.
It feels so nice. It's like a massage. What you're looking at me is this feels nice.
All right, here you go. Start wiping those off.
Can I go wash them?
Yeah, keep it up like that though. All right, she's gonna go wash her hands.
Yes.
All right,
I'll
so
be back,
now,
people.
again, if you have a heat source, it's another good time to go ahead and go back over this again. The longer your painting sits too, even if you don't have a torch or a heat gun, you're gonna start seeing more and more cells pop up as time goes on. So that's a lot of fun. So that's the flip cup. These are going to take up to, if not longer than 24 hours to dry. So you're gonna wanna make sure that they are in a room that is between like 72 and 80 degrees without a fan on. We're gonna turn our fan off after. Anything that's gonna cause the painting to dry faster and cure faster than it naturally would on its own is going to cause the paint to crack. Which is fine if you don't plan, if it doesn't bug you and you don't plan on showcasing it anywhere, but we wanna make sure that, you know, you're getting your money's worth and it looks nice for you. So if you can control that, do so. Something else that people do to help it dry evenly is those giant storage tubs. You can wipe one out and flip it upside down over top of the paintings. That way no wind or breeze or anything gets to it, and it'll dry properly.
This is, I did a different, something like this.
I don't know if they can see you.
Before I did something like this, and we had to take, what's it called again? Oh, yeah.
The storage tub?
This is what it turned out to look like. These two. They were already bought, but as the coronavirus and quarantine, we could not give them to the owners yet.
All right, so that's the flip cup. If you have any questions about that, put it in the comments and we'll try to answer them for you. Another fun little tidbit is if you have another like small piece of wood or small canvas, you can use the paint that has fallen on the table. What you'll do is you'll just flip the canvas upside down, push it into the paint, and then flip it back up. And you get another little extra painting. And it's also a good way to not waste the paint. But we don't have any tiny canvases right now. All right, sit down. I'm not doing that right now. It's art class, not PE. We're gonna go ahead and do the swipe. For the swipe, I picked hot pink, like a peachy color, and
Mango
yellow ochre.
It looks like mangoes. It looks good.
Now I'm just gonna do it on a little tile, which is cool because they're only like $1.50, $2 at Lowe's.
They're very smooth and flat too, so that's good.
Well, not smooth. You don't want completely smooth. This is kind of toothy here.
Well, yeah, it's just, I love it.
It works well. I've done a lot of paint pours on them. So for the swipe method, it's a little bit different. With this one, you really don't need any extra chemicals. Let me see. Piece of paper. So I have my paints mixed up already. Mine do have a little bit of Floetrol in them, but I'm not going to put any of the silicone or the dimethicone in it or anything like that. All right. So we're going to take my peach. I'm going to put it about an inch down. I'm going to put little dots. My yellow. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color, I like black.
Black. Black's a good color. You want to be careful when you're doing paint pours not using too much black though, because then it kind of just turns into a black abyss.
Sadly.
It can look nice. It can look nice. It's just not as fun as doing
I don't know why.
bright
black's my
colors
favorite
and.
color. It's like, I don't know why.
All right,
It gets
so
me
now
really hot sometimes too.
you what?
Because basically I have almost all black clothes. It's just these are old clothes.
Yeah. Well, that's so we don't get too dirty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now you're gonna take a completely different color than these three. In my case, I always use black and white, so I'm using white. And I'm gonna run my white across the top.
Like not directly on the edges like I did. Like let's say like the edge is right here. Well, the edge is right here, so probably around it. Around.
Yeah, just the top of it.
So there's like
Okay.
a small frame.
I'm gonna let that run off a little bit. Okay,
That's gonna look good.
so now you can either take like a palette knife, if you have a palette knife. They actually come in a lot of packages of paint brushes and stuff like that. Or you can just use a piece of paper. So I'll use both to show you that you can do either or.
So you can do half paper and half.
Yeah.
I did the paper clip for my first time too.
Alright, so palette knife. You're going to kind of let it sit and float in the paint. You don't need to push down. And then you're going to pull this down. You're pulling the white over top of the other paint.
And then the cells will make it look really,
Yes.
really nice.
Alright, so we're going to leave that be for a minute. And you can see the other colors of the paint starting to come through. Now you can do this with paper. Again, you're going to let it float. And you're using the flat side of the paper, so you get an even pull on the paint all the way down. We're going to pull it. Barely any pressure.
They literally are just holding it to have support up.
Yes.
And you're just.
And we're not seeing much paint come through, but that's totally cool. We're going to wipe off our paper and you can do it again.
And then you can use the cell to make it bleed through. If you know what I mean.
Alright. And then same with the painting. We're going to pull it one way. And then I like to pull it back the other way. And kind of let that extra white drip off. You have to be patient with these sometimes. Sometimes the paint likes to take its time.
I just say that on the visuals. Yeah, boys.
And you can kind of see the thickness of your paint as it's running off too. And you'll learn the more and more you do it how thick the paint needs to be on top. But I'll show you with a popsicle stick after an easy way to determine if you need to let more paint run off or not. Alright, so we're not having much more movement with our paint, so we should be okay here. Our pet rat is down here and he's thoroughly enjoying this whole YouTube time.
Ripping pieces of paper and running up in little mansion cage. It's absolutely huge.
Alright, now you can use paper like this to try and help pop your bubbles and create those cells. It doesn't work as well as heat, but
Still better.
still better.
Well, better
I'm
than
gonna
nothing.
drag it again.
Not better, but it's better than nothing.
Oh, there we go.
So you drag, once you do that, drag it again, and then the colors will start to show. And then you can do the cells if you want.
Yeah, you can drag it as many times as you want. Now, I'm gonna bring this right up to the camera, because like I said, excuse me, Chan,
Yeah.
this has no chemicals in it. We aren't using silicone or anything. We have cells popping up, people. Hopefully you can see that. Cells popping up. So, like I said, no silicone is needed.
Ah.
If you don't have silicone or dimethicone, you just need to have a little more patience in stretching that paint out and layering it.
Yep.
As long as there's layers and you're stretching that paint out, you're gonna get some cells. So no worries if you can't get your hands on that other stuff right now.
Part one of being YouTube famous.
Right, ready?
I hate heat anymore.
These already have one in the garage, or for any other purposes, they have little tiny ones for like baking, that you can find for, I think they're around like 20 bucks. That's all you need unless you're doing something huge.
Like if you're in a rush, like making something, or like for like your wife's birthday and she's directly home, you're making like a pizza or something.
You're gonna cook a pizza with a blowtorch?
I mean, that's.
I'll make dinner tonight.
I've seen YouTube has a. Trust me, YouTube has a weird side.
It sounds like it. All right, so let's. This is an easy way to help check, especially if you're just beginning pours. Check your paint thickness to make sure that it hopefully dries without any cracks. All you're gonna do is stick it down, and see how hopefully you can see from there. Barely any of this popsicle stick is in the paint. The tip is barely blue. I don't know if you can see it. I sure hope you can.
I can.
You can bring it up there?
Yep.
And
we're
that
probably
is
being
great.
crazy people if they
That's
can.
great.
Bring it up real close. Only the tiny tip. It's very thin. It's not gonna be like up to here, like up to here. Or
Yeah,
up
if you're
here.
any higher than
The tip.
than just the tip, you want to go ahead and keep tilting your canvas. You can shake it a little bit to get the paint going, to get it off, but you want it to be thin. Anything too thick is not going to dry correctly. And don't get discouraged if it does not dry correctly the first time. I've been doing it for a very long time, and sometimes I still even have things that crack. It just happens that way.
See, these, you can put like gloss over it if you want. But if you look very closely on this one and my other one that are bought, they have little cracks.
Yeah. And that's totally okay, and you still might be fine with that too, and that's what works, But
I mean,
we want to try and dry them without cracks though. So that's the goal. But it's okay if we have to keep working on it until we get it right. So these are our pours. The swipe method and the flip cup method.
I like this one.
You like the swipe? I hope we explained everything thoroughly. If we didn't and you have questions, please let me know. We also would love to see what you made. So if you want to go ahead and tag us in your pictures or send them to us, that would be super cool. Do you have anything else to add? You do?
Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
Here, let's do a close-up. We'll do a close-up for you guys here so you can see the paintings up close. I'm not sure how great. All right, so this is the flip cup.
We did not have bloopers. Wait, can I hold the camera?
All right, guys.
Can I hold the camera?
Stay safe.
This? Say bye, Neville. Say bye.